they were talking about why China's 5-year plans are so successful. So it's come from this book. Obviously, I have translated into English. This is one of the evaluation of the last 5-year plan, okay, the 30 5-year plan. Today, this year, 2021, is the 14th 5-year plan, and it has started already. So we are looking at how come a Chinese 5-year plan can be executed so successfully. So every year there will be a number of actions taken. For example, there will be people are being tasked to do the planning. And one of them has just said that they don't worry about the quality, because after the process, the quality will be very high. So let's look at what is the planning process. The planning process consists of 5 stages. The first stage is to mobilize suggestions and from all parties in the very early stage of the preparation of the policy text. So this policy test will go into a drafting team. The main task of the drafting team is to integrate all the suggestions and then come out with some information and draft policies. Then after the phased policy text is formed, then you will go out again, solicit opinions from all parties, and then modify to form a policy draft. At different decision-making levels, through formal meetings to collectively discuss and decide to form the formal policy document. This is where intensive work is being done in small committees. So a policy may have a number of suggestions. There will be one committee looking over all the suggestions, but there will be smaller committees looking at individual suggestions in the same policy. And then all these policy studies will be a very serious way. After the policies eventually formalized, then you will communicate and implement the policy document that have been formed to all parties. And then people have to study the policy and then commit to bringing the policy into being. So the Chinese 5-year plan goes something around this circle all the time. And every single policy goes around this 5-stage method. Through extensive research, decision makers can grasp a first-hand information, and that is making the 5-year plan preparation realistic. That means it is grounded to the real needs of the society. And the research process is also a way of doing mutual communication and negotiations. Several characteristics. First, attach importance to research. Research is very, very important. You have to have base on research. Second is public participation. The third is deliberate democracy centered on the aggregate ideas. When the ideas has been collected together, then they will have a very deliberate discussions. And this is a democratic centralization. Centralization meaning that the decision process is top down in this case. Now, the information collected is bottom up, but the decision is top down. That means all the information collected form the draft. The draft is taken to the top, and the top will divide the draft and then centralize and going downwards to different subcommittees. and then integrate science into democracy, make sure that the policy works. And a lot of policies, especially for those which involve a major change, will have to look at the results, and then the results informs the policy, and the policy may change on the fly. Now, for example, during the COVID 2020, we know China take a very different routes to solve this COVID problem. The first initial phase is information collection. So they send, we call it COVID-19 because the first identified the virus come from in December 2019. So in December 2019, when they discovered there might be a illness spreading through Wuhan, they sent altogether 3 different expert teams to Wuhan to investigate. Of course, these different teams take time, so they are about 1 week apart. So by almost December 31st, they almost agree that they have a virus at hand, and they notify the WTO, the World Health Organization, on the 1st of January 2020 that China detected a virus. Still, at that time, they still think the virus will not be spread people to people. And then as it progresses on, more and more evidence appear that it is spreading people by people. And then it is also the time during the spring migration. A lot of people are moving back to their home country, home villages. And Wuhan is at the center of the high-speed rail. It's an exchange hub. So a decision was made to stop people moving around in order to stop the virus spreading. So they locked down Wuhan. I think they locked down Wuhan on the 28th of January. After locking down, the next problem is how can they help the people in Wuhan to overcome the virus. So they started organizing different medical teams to go into Wuhan. The first groups of the medical team come from the PLA, the People's Liberation Army. So the medical staff in the army was first to mobilize. They went into Wuhan and noticed that a lot of hospital was not equipped to deal with a infectious disease. So the first thing they do is, okay, we modify the hospital so that they becomes infectious disease compatible. So they modify about 5 hospitals, but still the number of patients rises very rapidly. And on the same day, when they closed down the Wuhan, they decided to build a specialist temporary infectious disease hospital, and that has 1,000 hospital beds. So they started on it, and they are given 10 days to finish the job. By about the 3rd day, they realized that one such hospital is not enough. So they started building the second temporary infectious disease hospital. The second one has 1,600 beds. After building these 2 hospitals, they started to realize that a lot of patients are infected because they are test positive, but they do not have symptoms. So how do you isolate these people from spreading? They now use the large venues like gymnasium or exhibition center to build what they call the cubic hospitals, where a large group of patients who are all tested positive, but can manage themselves, no significant medical symptoms, are isolated in the same site and looked after by medical staff. The patients themselves, they all carry the virus, so they don't need extra protection. But all the medical staff are in full PPP, personal protective gears. And if any patients started to have medical symptoms, then they can transfer the patients quickly into a hospital for treatment. If the people are symptomless, then they will be isolated in the ward until they are tested negative twice. Then they are released back to the community. So these methods are all invented along the way. The only policy they have is given by Xi Jinping is kill everybody, cure, not kill, cure everybody. That's the only requirement. So that is how the Chinese continue with their policy making process. As an example, they call it a democratic centralism. It's different from the democratic in the sense that it is a bottom-up democratic, top-down centralism. So they are running in the same time. Another important notice is that in United States, the decision-making process is a veto process. They are trying to vote down other people's policy. But in China, it is a complementary process. That means oppositions is not trying to vote down your policy. It's trying to provide you with more choices so that you can make better choice. The 5-year plan was passed with high number of votes when National People's Congress voted. And you will notice the voting takes place in relatively short time. Usually the premier will read out the summary and then people vote. There is no first reading, second reading, third reading, or no all these things, because most of the Congress members have already participated in the subcommittees when the plan is for. Of course, not everybody participate in every subcommittees. Now, the National People's Congress has approximately 3,000 members. These 3,000 members will have participated in different subcommittees. Of course, some of them might not be interested in the policy and therefore they will abstain from it. But most of them will have participated in some part of the plan, and therefore they can vote on the plan very quickly because they were the one who draft the plan anyway. In more than a year before the 5-year plan was submitted for voting, so it takes almost a year to formulate the plan. The National Congress will participate extensively in the formation of plan through special investigations, suggestions, early intervention, review, etc., etc. They are working on it for a whole year before the plan goes to vote. A Japanese American political scientist, Fukuyama, make an evaluation of the China's political system. He said, the biggest advantage of China's political system is that she has the ability to make major complex decisions quickly, and the quality of these decisions is quite good, at least in terms of the political policy. That is the real realm. He also said different departments within the government can easily interact with each other, coupled with the jurisdictionalization of politics and the widespread penetration of interest groups. The government structure, ultimately shaped by the US political system, undermines the fundamental foundation of collective action and forms the so-called veto politics. So the quite different is the Chinese political system is not a veto politics system. It is a suggestion system. The rest come from this paper from the Ash Center Research about the long-term policy opinion of the Chinese, understanding what the Chinese citizens think about their own government has proven elusive to scholars, policymakers, and business people alike outside the country. Opinion polling in China is heavily scrutinized by the government, with foreign polling firms prohibited from direct conducting surveys. But the Ash Center did something, but this had to be done in collaboration with the Chinese. So the work began in 2003. The survey collected in 8 waves from 2003 to 2016, and it captured opinion data from 32,000 individual correspondents. The survey team set out to assess overall satisfaction levels with government among respondents from across the socio-economic and geographic strata of China. It is always a challenge to obtain a representative sample of the Chinese population, particularly from interior provinces. Our survey does not include migrant laborers, for example, but given the fact that the survey conducted in-person interviews with over 3,000 respondents per year in a purposive stratified sample, we are happy that the results include not just the coastal elites, but also the poorer and less developed inland provinces. The survey team found that they compared with the public opinion patterns in US. The Chinese has a very high satisfaction towards the central government. In 2016, the last year the survey was conducted, 95.5% of the respondents were either relatively satisfied or very highly satisfied with Beijing. In contrast to these findings, the US citizens' satisfaction is roughly 38%. So there is a large difference of the support from the citizenship. Compared to the relatively high satisfaction rates with Beijing, respondents held a considerably less favorable views towards local government. At the township level, the lowest government survey only 11.3% of the respondents reported they are very satisfied. Again, the US reveals quite a different story. American trust surveys over time show a clear distinction between low-level trust towards the federal government, but a strong belief and faith in the power of the local government. So that's almost reverse. In China, people trust the central government more than the local government. The research team also keen to examine the disparity in the responses of wealth, predominantly urban and coastal areas, to those of less developed. It didn't surprise us that the wealthy coastal citizens, who were the winners of the globalization in many ways and winners of China's domestic reform program, had a high favorable rate of the government overall, regardless of level of government extent. The responses from survey participants in rural areas, however, surprised the researchers, particularly over time. We did not anticipate how quickly both low-income citizens and people from less developed regions in China closed the satisfaction gap with high-income citizens and people from coastal areas. Now that because China implemented the poverty reduction program and making those people poor very satisfied with the program. Observers long predicted that China's slow economic growth coupled with a complacent, ineffective government bureaucracy will ultimately lead to the crumbling of the Beijing's political authority. However, this is exactly the opposite, okay? While frustration with the corruption and the quality of public services at local level clearly exists, the Ash research team's work has shown that the current political system in China appears remarkably resilient. Inequality remains a key concern for policymakers and citizens alike in China. But the survey project found little to support the argument that those concerns among ordinary Chinese are translating into broader dissatisfaction with government. The final round of the survey in 2016 revealed that about 1/3 of the respondents were much more likely to lodge complaints about the government or protest if they felt that the air pollution had negatively impacted their own health or the health of their immediate family members. That means the Chinese citizen is now very active in terms of pushing the government to do things in the way they want to do. The last question I asked today is, did the pandemic shake China's citizens' trust in the government? Washington Post surveyed over 20,000 people. The 2018 World Value Survey report 95% of Chinese citizens said they have a great deal or quite a lot of trust in national government, compared with 69% for their local government. Since the Chinese government already enjoy a very high level of trust, did the pandemic change it? The data showed that the Chinese citizens trust their national government increased to 98%. Now remember, it was 95%. So from 95% to 98%. Their trust in local government also increased compared with the 2018. 91% Chinese citizens survey now said they trusted completely the township level government. The trust level rose to 93% at the county level, 94% the city level, 95% to the province level. So this very interesting. The smaller the group, the less satisfaction, but the higher the group, the more satisfaction. To the national level, 98%. Why? Because of the concentration of power and the concentration of voting. The voting system reflects that, because every higher level, the people in charge are more capable on the next level down, because only capable persons were being elected and moving up the ladder. The research shows the patterning of answers help identify when trust denotes critical evaluation of institutional performance. So they group it into two truster. One is critical truster, who have variability in the answers. They are making a specific assessment of the performance of each government level. In contrast, there's a so-called diffuse truster, who trust all levels. Of course, we have people who doesn't trust anything. The data show that 1% of the Chinese citizens expressed cynicism about the government during the pandemic. About 55% are diffuse truster and 44% are critical truster. Critical trust is based on citizens' recent evaluation of the performance from each specific level of the government during the pandemic. If trust is specific, then low trust might merely represent criticism, and high trust could reflect citizens' satisfaction with government performance. Among the 44% of the critical truster, okay, who have placed more trust in some level more than the others. The main level of trust is 89%. The fact that trust is high among Chinese citizens who look at the government performance with a critical eyes suggests that high government trust in China during the pandemic reflects Chinese citizens' true satisfaction with their government performance. That means this zero tolerance of COVID is well accepted by the Chinese citizen. Another paper here on why Chinese people support their government. First, economically, China rapid growth is beyond dispute. The median age of both the Chinese and US population is around 37. While the young American has experienced war, economic crisis, and stagnant incomes, the young people in China has largely lived in an era of growing wealth thanks to poverty elimination. They are better off than their parents' generation. Second, the state decision-making model wins the trust of the Chinese people. China's success lies in the government's ability to manage the microeconomy. The world's most populous country has built an extensive network of modern railways and roads in a span of 25 years, and a highly efficient digital infrastructure has been put in place. The third reason lies in the Chinese recent history. The Chinese people remember well the lessons of the century of humiliation suffered at the hands of the invading imperialists and foreign forces. And they are keenly aware of the chaos wreaked by the Western-style democracy in modern China. The last one is education. For more than 2,000 years, the Chinese nation has been infused with Confucianism, which argues that individuals should obey the state in the name of common good. The Chinese stand ready to give up some level of individual freedom in the interest of collective prosperity. And that also reflects in the Chinese willingness to accept the zero tolerance for COVID. Of course, there are many other reasons, but according to experts, the most important one is that the fast economic development and growing national strength. The Chinese people have a general sense of gain, security, happiness, and pride, which naturally translates into trust and support for the government. The Chinese government effective governance and statecraft also wins its support of the Chinese people. It plans for long term in the form of 5-year plans, 10-year plans, even longer. This ability to think ahead lays a solid foundation of overcoming crisis, unlike in some countries in which policies are determined by elections and platform for governance changes vary with every president. The policies of the previous administration are invariably repudiated by the next. Consistency in national policy is undermined, so that is compared with the Chinese system. Experts also say that the whole of state system allows China to direct resources to do big things. This characteristic has been reflected in the fight against COVID-19. To tackle the challenge, the government took absolute measures, including lockdowns as necessary. The strict measures effectively brought the epidemic under control in a way that minimizes the blow to the economic activity. China was the only major economy that registered positive growth in 2020. Let me change that one. Okay. This factor all explain why the Chinese people trust and support their government. They believe that in spite of the severe challenges ahead and the fact that there is room for improvement, so long as the government genuinely serves the people and works for their well-being, the trust of the Chinese people is well placed. Okay, so that is for today. I was expecting more people so that we can have a discussion. But anyway, any question? You haven't turned on your mic. I mute.
Does opinion poll exist in China?
Yes, it does. And there is a lot of surveying opinion polls done by different levels of government all the time. Actually, opinion poll is a big business in China. There are so many different questions asking different segments of the society. So it is very, very vivid. It is even more than what we get in West here. And the people are much more willing to give their genuine opinion in China. Obviously, a lot of them is collected on a voluntary basis. So, you know, the digital economy in China is very good. So they will put up a survey on digital platforms. People will come in and then answer questions. And then sometimes the question is very long. I read some, it can be a few pages long.
Does China has social security system?
Yes or no?
If you're unemployed, will you get?
If you are unemployed, yes. Now, because China is a very old country, people has been living in there all the time. So in the worst situation, you go back to your own home, attend your fields, and you have food to eat. So, but again, another big issue is, of course, the other issue. Eating is no longer a problem. You have food, you have home. These two are almost because people have been living in the land for generations. But the other issue is, of course, their health, education, and job opportunity. The job opportunity, as I said, if you in the worst case scenario, you go back to your own village and then work the field. But if you go out, you can find work. You find work. You can't find work, you can always go back home. So joblessness is not a very important issue, and it is, but not really. So the main issue is education and health. Education, 9 years compulsory education free. And that means free also in the sense that the school provide lunch. If you are boarding, the school provide breakfast and dinner as well. And there's a lot of boarding school in China. So the poor family actually send their kids to school on Monday and get them back late Friday. And or the whole week, basically the school take care of the kids. So,
but these are only at the compulsory level, right?
Yeah, at the 9-year compulsory level. And then after that, like here, if you go on to the higher senior secondary and the universities, if you can afford it, fine. You're not, usually there will be loans and scholarship, etc. covering. So at the moment, there's no, in China, they are now almost implementing that. If you are able to do it, you will be able to get the education you want. So there will be sufficient support. The Chinese is now pretty rich. Remember that if the problem can be solved by printing money in renminbi, it will be solved. Not a problem, right? So if the government, now the only issue is, of course, when the government need to bring in resources from outside, which needs foreign research, foreign currency, then that is a problem. But if the problem is only within China, for example, providing education, the universities teachers are paid by the government, and then student fees pay part of it, but mostly this professors are being paid by the government anyway. So there's not a big problem. In terms of health, now they implement a minimum health insurance for everybody. So basically you have a problem health-wise, then the government will pay about 70% of your medical costs. About 30% you have to cover by yourself or from loans from your family. But in extreme case, that 30% will be paid by the government as well. So basically you have this. And then the third one is, of course, is the retirement, the pension.
Yeah.
The Chinese pension age is 55 for women, 60 for men. So after that, there is still many years to after retirement. And most of the retirement, they will get about 80% of the previous salary, full pension. So you have sufficient money to spend in your retirement without worrying it. Most of them. There will be.
So it doesn't matter you work with the government or you work with the private sector. Doesn't change. It is a government provided pension. So a lot of people are arguing this, will Chinese able to maintain this the expense? But again, remember, if the problem can be solved by printing money, it is not a problem. Now, the central government, the banks which print money is the government. Okay. Then when it prints money for you to use, you spend it in the local economy. And the local economy, because this actually improves, and then the government takes in more tax anyway. Even if the government is making there's a lot of different calculations which we take it wrongly. For example, high-speed rail. Not every high-speed rail lines are making profit. But the Chinese government still keep on building high-speed rails. So you look at the high-speed rail corporation itself, it is losing money. And therefore, the Chinese government is pumping money into this losing money organization and keep on building. But on the other hand, it is not making money by the sales of tickets, but the economy as a whole, because of this high-speed network, improves. And therefore, the overall, in terms of the whole government approach, the high-speed network is making money, because the lower cost of people traveling means people can have more productive work time, etc. And therefore, the higher productivity improves the whole country. So the calculation is different. The Chinese government is, because it is a one government management. So they don't think in terms of, okay, I need every parts to make money. No, they don't thinking in that way. They make the whole society as a unit. And when the whole society is making money, what does this mean? It is increasing foreign reserve. The whole country trading with other countries is bringing in money. So the internal problem is not a problem. Internal problem is just a accounting problem. Just like a family, okay? I owe my wife money, doesn't matter. As we sum up together, make money outside, it's fine. The problem is when we two spend more than we can earn, then that's a problem. So the Chinese government think that way as well. The whole China trading with other countries, make money, then the Chinese government is, okay, internal problem, not a problem. You can solve it by printing money. Printing money is just accounting. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Now I've got another, not a question, but maybe like a request. Do you have any information on the bamboo industry in China?
The Chinese use a lot of bamboo,
Yeah.
and therefore I can't say a bamboo industry because it is not our industry. It is industries. A lot of
industry.
different use of bamboos. Now, yeah, I can prepare one in this direction about how the Chinese bamboo industries.
Yeah, because I saw now there are lots of like clothes from China made from bamboo.
Yeah.
Floor socks, floorboard.
Mm.
Yeah, even pillow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even pillows. Because the bamboo fiber is a very interesting fiber. It has a hollow core, and that makes bamboo very interesting. So yeah, I can prepare one of those. Okay, now
thank you.
Last thing, and this will be my last China Today presentation is this year, and then next year I'm not going to run China Today like this year. I will be making a China Today video every week and put it up on YouTube.
Oh.
So I will be sending out my English channels link so that I welcome people to link in order to listen to what I'm going to say next year.
So you send the link to us?
I will send the link through the email.
And you all still, but you still have that China special, right?
Yeah, I would, but I'm not, there will be no course. Yeah, I have the China Today special 3 times per term.
Per term. That one's still on.
That
one's still on.
Yeah, the weekly China Today will be switched into a video I put up in YouTube.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. See you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Albert, and have a happy new year.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.